No.
Fridays, one's Friday.
Okay, C.
Fridays.
Bueno. I also have this up on the wiki page in the activities section as well, what you have on, but so I'll look at it right here. So here's the first thing I wanted to make sure that we understand, because object pronouns are important for several reasons. One, they're important because it's an area that a lot of students kind of get confused with. So that's one reason why we're starting it early, make sure that we know how to use it. And the second reason is because object pronouns, using them correctly, now you're talking about real Spanish. Okay, native Spanish speakers use pronouns constantly. And so using object pronouns correctly is sort of like your first step into really using real Spanish and saying real things. Okay? But it takes some time. It's sort of like, it's like working out. When you first start working out, you're like, a mile. Oh my God. How's my fat gluteus going to get around that track 4 times? Oh, I need a cigarette. Okay. And then once you start doing the mile, you start realizing now you're up to 2 miles, and then you're up to 3, and then you're up to 5, and you're like, remember when I couldn't run a mile? And it's sort of tough at the beginning, but once you get it, you have it. Okay. So here's exactly. So here's but we'll be using it a lot. Okay. So here's the first thing I want us all to know, and I'm just going to write on this for right now. The first thing you need to know is that there are 4 kinds of pronouns that we need to be aware of for this class. There are more than 4 types of pronouns, but for this class, we only need to be aware of 4. The first are subject pronouns, okay? And we already know what the subject pronouns are. You just may not know they're called subject pronouns. That's yo, tu, ella, el, usted, nosotros, vosotros, ellos, ustedes, all of those. Okay, those are subject pronouns. Okay. Then we've got direct object pronouns, which I will always abbreviate as DO because it's just faster. And then we have indirect object pronouns, which I'll always abbreviate as IO. And then we have what we looked at the other day, reflexive pronouns. And we actually looked at those the other day, when I have those notes posted as well. Now here's the first thing that confuses the bejesus out of people. And that's this. Please observe. Me, te, and nos. Me is a direct object pronoun. It's an indirect object pronoun. And it's a reflexive pronoun. So people get all confused,
Te and nos.
Exactly.
So that
And os.
All
Right. No. That's only deals with verbs. And os, which is the vosotros, but we only use that for the national Spanish thing. So one of the things that I recommend, or that I would suggest in terms of studying to help you out, is to realize, well, first of all, I'm never going to ask you a question, at least right at this stage of the year. I'm not going to say, hey, what kind of pronoun is that? Okay? When you look at something, say, hey, what kind of pronoun is may? And you're like, Dodging? I mean, you just guess. You know what I mean? I'm not going to ask you those questions yet. Okay? You all right? Cool. All right. So what I would recommend instead is we all agree that we know that may, te, and nos are the same for direct, indirect, and reflexive. So what I think you should study is, well, what are the different ones? And that's what you want to associate yourself with. Because we know may, te, nos are the same for all 3. So instead, when I say what are the direct object pronouns, you should just associate the ones I'm about to tell you with direct object pronouns. And I think that makes it a little bit easier
So
to
which
remember.
one, so which group should
So
you
let's look and see.
So which group should you associate me, te, and nos with?
All 3. That's my point.
Is there a group for no for both languages?
Os.
Os?
OS.
For all 3?
All 3. I just said that, but I'll say it again. See, that's teaching 101. Just because you say it doesn't mean people hear. Cool. So, direct object pronouns. Here they are. Me, te, and then here's what we need to know. Lo and la. Lo is a direct object pronoun. La is a direct object pronoun. Okay? And then we've got indirect object pronouns. Me, te. That one, however, is le. And of course, the reflexive pronoun, if we remember from the other day, is se. So I would suggest learning, hey, direct object pronouns. Lo and la, direct object pronouns. Indirect object pronouns. Oh, that's le.
Or lace.
Reflexive pronouns.
Let's
Oh, that's
say.
se. I think I would perhaps study it that way at first. Because me, te, no, they're the same. You're correct for all three. And then, los and las are the they versions of it. Them. Actually, it's not they, it's them. Lace is the indirect, and say again for the reflexive. So the first thing I would suggest is, do you know that there are 4 kinds of pronouns that we need to be aware of? Subject pronouns, direct object pronouns, indirect object pronouns, reflexive pronouns. And the second thing I would say, all right, do I know the difference? And my suggestion is to say, sure. Subject pronouns, that's yo, to, LAF. I got this. They're completely different. So I can count them as separate groups. Got it. Boom. Direct, indirect, reflexive, well, they share a lot in common, so the ones I'm going to focus on are what they have in different. Direct object pronouns, lo, la, los, las. Indirect object pronouns, le, les. Reflexive pronouns, se. Because we know me, te, and nos are the same for all 3.
And those.
And os. Thank you. So that's the first thing. Okay? Let's see if this works. It does. I know, but I've been trying to do it for the whole board. Oh, it wasn't working earlier. Maybe I just got my technique down better. All right, here's the next question I've got. Can you see these or should I make them bigger?
We have them right here.
Oh, that's true, you have it there. All right, cool, thank you, forgot. Raise your hand if you know how to find a direct object in English.
That's
Yeah,
debatable.
we're kind of like
Depends
this.
on the day.
That's right, if I were videoing this, it would be funny, because everybody would be like, do they have their hands high? Okay, then I will. Right. All right. Here's the way I recommend it. This is the Allegra method. Okay? If you do the Allegra method, you will always get it right in an Allegra Spanish class. Okay? I bought folders for my brother. Here's what I suggest. After the verb, say what or who. Okay? I bought what? I bought who. Okay? What generally is the first one. Whatever answers that question is the direct object. Okay? Yes.
Those folders is the direct.
Yes.
Yes.
After the verb,
Salvietto. Who is in this?
after the verb, ask what. Or you can ask who. It gets a little tricky in English because a lot of times we stick the indirect object before the direct object.
Yo,
Okay.
yellows.
So when we get to it, you'd say, I bought what? The answer to that is folders. Therefore, folders is the direct object.
Carpeta.
Yes, which is las carpetas in Spanish. In the next sentence, she bought flowers for you. She bought what?
Flowers.
Flowers. Therefore, flowers is the direct object. We bought a new frying pan for Mom. We bought what? Frying pan or pan. Okay. That therefore it is the direct object. They bought a small island for me. What did they? They bought what? An island. That's the direct object. Okay. If you ask, I'll let you do it. If you ask what after the verb, it's very popular. It's a Condé Nast top 10.
I'm going there.
You should. It's an age restriction.
You have to
Look
be
at
identified.
it. If you ask what after the verb, you'll always find the direct object. Now that's going to be important in a few seconds. Now, conversely, or not conversely, in the same vein, to find the indirect object, just after the direct object, say to or for whom. Whatever answers that question is the indirect object. And please realize that many times we'll almost always have a direct object, but we will not always have an indirect object. Okay? So that's a key thing to be aware
It's like inferred.
of. Exactly. It is inferred. But we don't always say it or write it. So starting off, I'll almost always have them written. As we move on, sort of dropping, because it becomes, you have to be able to understand the inference. So in this particular case, I bought folders for or to whom? My mama or my brother? So brother is indirect object. For you, for mom, for me. So we've got our direct objects and we have our indirect objects. Yes, ma'am?
said, for someone that was a prepositional phrase, and it was like, I bought mom.
It is a prepositional phrase, but in English, again, we first of all, one of my incomplete master's degrees in linguistics. Okay, so
One of your what?
one of my incomplete master's degrees. I have 4 incomplete master's degrees.
Why didn't you complete them?
Life intervened, buddy. So one of them was in linguistics. Okay, so I took a whole, and one of them was in ESL, so in English as a second language. So I've done all kinds of big studies on how we teach grammar in English, and the simple answer is we teach it incorrectly. But the fact of the matter is that in English, prepositional phrases can serve as indirect objects, okay, as opposed to being completely distinct. They're able to do double do. And that's one of the things that confuse when you're in 6th grade and you're learning about them. You're like object of a preposition and those kinds of things. You just get, you're like, what? And it's just confusing. Oh, then you definitely were confused. So, for us, there's no such issue. All right? We don't have to worry about, especially in level 2, we're not worrying about prepositional phrases in Spanish. For us, as far as we're concerned, they don't exist. Okay? All we need to do is say, I bought what? For or to whom? That's what we need to identify. What's the direct object? What's the indirect object? So let's take then, after we have that, we'll just do one particular example of what I'd like for you to do on the rest of the worksheet, because it's a little tricky. So I'll walk us through it quickly, and then we'll be finished. So let's do, I bought folders for my brother, just as that's the first one. So I bought, now obviously this is from, this isn't customized to this class of where we are right now, because it's past 10. So you got, okay. But we've got, I bought, so we've got compré, which is I bought. Compré las carpetas para mi hermano. Okay, this is a totally fine sentence in English, and quite frankly, it's transliterated, but it works. We can get away with it. I bought folders for my brother. Okay, totally works. Nothing wrong with it. But for us, in terms of making it sexy, to sexify the sentence, that's where pronouns come in. Okay, so the next thing I ask you to do is I say, hey, rewrite that sentence, all right, using a direct object pronoun. Now, if we remember, what is the direct object in that sentence? Folders. So what we've got then is I bought. We're going to substitute out folders. We're going to take it out and insert a direct object pronoun, but everything else stays the same. Do you understand how I got that? Okay. So the only thing I need now is I need to insert the direct object pronoun. If we go back and we remember, we've got me, te, lo, la, nos, los, las. Which direct object pronoun am I going to use for las carpetas? Las. And why am I using las? Right, feminine, plural, they agree. And so I put in las. Boom. So now I've got my direct object pronoun in there. Everybody with me so far? Cool. Then the final thing we have to do is, where do pronouns go? For us, in my class with the Allegro method, pronouns always go before the verb. That is not true in the real world of Spanish. You can put it other places. But to help eliminate confusion on the part of some students, I say, always put it in front of the verb. Okay?
Las compré.
So, exactly. So the sentence reads, las compré para mi hermano. Da, da, da. Okay? So that's writing the sentence with a direct object pronoun. The next thing, of course, I ask you to do is to write each sentence using an indirect object pronoun. That's on the back, I believe. So again, well, I know I'm going to use compré. I know I'm going to keep las carpetas this time, because I know that that's the direct object. But I'm going to take out the indirect object for my brother, which is him. Okay. And then what is the indirect object pronoun for him? Me, te, le, nos, les. I'm going to use le. compré las carpetas ley, but we now know, of course, according to me, where do pronouns always go? Before the verb. I bought the folders for him. Okay? Cool. See? My technique is off. There we go. Awesome. So that's the first step, okay? In theory, the homework that's due today, okay, that was due last night, was how do you work strictly with direct object pronouns or strictly with indirect object pronouns, okay? So I'll stop there for today, and we'll work on double object pronouns. If you want to, I'll go back over this Thursday night, and we'll work on the double object pronouns Thursday night as well. Okay? But for us moving forward, we're going to want to start to incorporate these pronouns.
Well, that's the fourth part.